In many places on this planet, people struggle with nature every day just to survive. Hanging off vertical cliffs, alone on an island in the middle of the ocean, or hidden in deep white snow, these villages exist in spots where the concept of living doesn't even seem to be in the dictionary. Yet humans have been here for hundreds of years. They don't just survive, they build strong communities and keep unique cultural values alive. Right now, join me as we explore 30 of the most dangerous places in the world where you won't believe people actually live. It's going to push the limits of your imagination regarding human grit in the face of nature's harshness. Atule'er Village, China. In the Liangshan region of Sichuan, there is a village called Atule'er, sitting all alone on a flat mountaintop at an altitude of 800 meters. About 200 years ago, the ancestors of the Yi people chose this place to settle down. They turned this dangerous peak into a natural fortress to hide from invaders and wild animals. To get home, residents have to conquer a vertical cliff. The only way up used to be sky ladders made of rattan that hung precariously in mid-air. Today, the rattan ladders have been replaced by 2,556 steel steps. But the vertical drop is still enough to make professional climbers dizzy. Coming here, you'll feel like your heart is jumping out of your chest. Below your feet is a deep abyss, and in front of you is a cold cliff wall. But when you reach the top, you'll be amazed by the endless sea of clouds in the Liangshan Mountains and the ancient earth houses sitting peacefully in the deep green forest. Aogashima Island, Japan. Japanese geological history recorded a horrific tragedy in the late 18th century when the Maruyama volcano woke up and wiped out half the population on Aogashima. Located about 260 kilometers from mainland Japan, Aogashima is a massive fortress with a volcano within a volcano structure, spanning less than 10 square kilometers. Today, over 160 residents have built their homes right next to the still active crater. They accept the danger in exchange for rich geothermal energy and fertile soil. Although the Maruyama volcano is currently classified as active, Group C, by the Japan Meteorological Agency, it hasn't erupted in over 200 years. A modern warning system runs 24/7, monitoring every breath of the volcano to protect this small community from any sudden geological shifts. La Rinconada, Peru. In Peru, there is a town often called the city closest to the sun, but in reality, it's a dark hell on Earth. At an altitude of 5,100 meters in the Andes, the oxygen level in La Rinconada is only at 50%. The town is surrounded by permanent glaciers, and the ground is covered in trash and thick black mud. Toxins from gold mines leak into the soil and water, destroying bodies day by day. The risk of disease is always lurking among mountains of trash. About 50,000 people are stuck here in flimsy tin shacks. They hang on in deep, dark tunnels. Law and order barely exist. Chaos reigns with gunfire and the threat of robbery around every corner. But despite this hell on earth, people still flock here. They work incredibly hard just to get a small amount of ore. In La Rinconada, gold isn't just made of sweat, but also the blood and lives of the world's most desperate people. Gasadalur, Faroe Islands. Between the crashing waves and sharp cliffs of the North Atlantic, the existence of Gasadalur Village is a total shock. Before 2004, there was no road here. To reach the village, residents had to climb over mountains over 400 meters high or cling to cliffs by the sea to wait for a helicopter. The only reason about 15 people settled in this dangerous spot is the rare flat land on top of the cliff. Here, the green grass allows them to raise sheep and farm. Visiting Gasadalur, you'll be overwhelmed by the surreal beauty of the Mulafossur waterfall, which drops straight from the village into the deep blue ocean. The traditional grass-roofed houses sit quietly amid the mist and steep cliffs. Gasadalur is a beautiful paradise and a testament to human resilience. Supai Village, USA. Hidden 900 meters deep at the bottom of the Grand Canyon, Supai is the most isolated village in America, where time seems to have stopped 800 years ago. The Havasupai tribe has stayed at the bottom of the canyon to protect their ancestors' water source and land. To get into the village, you have to walk 13 kilometers under the scorching desert sun, ride a mule along narrow cliffs, or take a helicopter. When heavy rain falls, the narrow canyon becomes a giant water trap. Red flash floods can wash away houses and completely cut off the village in an instant. Cell service and internet are totally blocked by the tall limestone walls. In return, this place has turquoise waterfalls flowing over bright red rocks with warm temperatures of 20 to 22 degrees Celsius year-round. Supai is a world completely separated from civilization, where life quietly goes on in the heart of a great wonder. Tristan da Cunha, UK territory. In the middle of the vast ocean, thousands of miles from the mainland, lies the most remote inhabited island on the planet. Tristan da Cunha, a British overseas territory, with its only village named Edinburgh of the Seven Seas, sits right at the foot of a giant volcano that could erupt at any time. In 1961, all residents had to be evacuated urgently when the volcano spewed lava right next to the village. However, despite the threat from underground, most residents chose to return. About 250 people maintain a self-sufficient community. The land is communal property. Every family raises sheep and grows potatoes, on the windy plains. Life here is a test of patience, as all supplies depend on the few ships that visit each year. When the sea is rough, the island is completely cut off from the outside world, forcing people to rely on each other to face the anger of nature. Danakil Depression Settlements, Ethiopia. At the Danakil Depression in Ethiopia, don't let the peaceful sight of camel caravans crossing white salt fields fool you. This is a land of toxic acid lakes. You will see salt mines stretching forever and volcanoes that never sleep. Temperatures often hit 50 degrees Celsius, turning this place into a gateway to hell on Earth. Despite the heat, the Afar community has stayed here for centuries to mine white gold, which is the precious salt located 125 meters below sea level. Life here is a long string of days breathing air, thick with the smell of sulfur and desert dust. Clean water is extremely scarce. Residents have to travel long distances on camels to survive. The ground can crack at any time due to intense geological activity, shooting up scalding hot water. If it were you, would you be brave and strong enough to survive in this fire paradise? Oymyakon, Russia. The most normal things in the modern world seem impossible in Oymyakon, Russia. Deep in Siberia, winter temperatures in Oymyakon regularly drop to minus 50 degrees Celsius. The record low was minus 71.2 degrees Celsius, a level of cold where your breath can freeze instantly. The permafrost makes farming or building plumbing systems impossible. Residents have to use outdoor toilets and keep fires burning under their cars so the engines don't freeze solid. Even burying the dead is a challenge. They have to burn fires for days just to thaw the ground, which is as hard as steel. Since they can't grow crops, people mainly eat horse meat, reindeer meat, and thin slices of frozen fish to get enough energy to fight the cold. If you like the cold, try visiting Oymyakon once to see how much you can handle. Giang Highland Villages, Vietnam. Giang, Vietnam, isn't just a tourist destination known for its massive wonders. It also leaves a deep impression because of the resilience of the people there. At altitudes over 1,000 meters, the Hmong and Lolo people build earth-walled houses with walls nearly 60 centimeters thick and yin-yang tiled roofs to withstand the bone-chilling cold. Among the sharp limestone rocks, people have to plant corn in tiny rock crevices and carry clean water from deep valleys up steep slopes for miles. The gateway to this border region is the Ma Pi Leng Pass, one of the 4 great passes of Vietnam. Below the 700-meter abyss, the No Quay River winds like a small thread through the forest. Today, the entire area is recognized by UNESCO as a global geopark. Coming here, you'll see the surreal beauty of buckwheat flowers blooming among the Rocky Mountains. Listening to the sound of the mouth harp, you'll understand the powerful life force of a heritage blooming on grey land. Kalsoy Island Villages, Faroe Islands. "18 kilometers long, at less than 1 kilometer wide, Kalsoy Island in the Faroe Islands is a dinosaur spine perched in the Atlantic. Here, humans survive on the edge of vertical limestone cliffs and storms that can tear through the mist and isolate the island in a heartbeat. In the village of Gasadalur, grass-roofed houses sit humbly at the foot of the mountain as if trying to hide from the ocean's anger. The lives of the 150 residents are tied to the rhythm of the waves and late ferries crossing rough seas. Before 4 tunnels were carved through the rock, every step away from home was a gamble with death on vertical slopes. Kalsoy became globally famous after being chosen as a filming location for the James Bond movie No Time to Die. Tourists flock to the Kalur Lighthouse to see the massive limestone cliff jutting into the sea. Despite the fame, the residents here keep a quiet pace of life, resiliently clinging to the cliffs like seagulls in the middle of the ocean. Atlas Mountain Villages, Morocco. The Atlas Mountains are not just the backbone of Morocco, they are the soul of the Berber people who have tamed these cliffs for centuries. At altitudes over 2,000 meters, the native Berber people have built houses from rammed earth and stone that cling to the mountain sides. They farm on dry, terraced fields. All supplies are transported by mules over trails only as wide as a foot, which can take 6 to 8 hours to travel. The lack of infrastructure and healthcare makes every trip from the village to town a real expedition. In winter, heavy snow completely isolates the villages in minus 15 degrees Celsius cold. In summer, flash floods sweep through deep canyons. Despite the harshness, these mountains are stunningly beautiful, with valleys full of roses and the characteristic red color of limestone. Here, people don't just survive, they keep traditions from thousands of years ago alive in the heart of North Africa's grandest mountain range. Mustang Villages, Nepal. For decades, the world seemed to have erased Mustang from the modern map. Known as the Forbidden Kingdom, hidden on the Tibetan Plateau, this place exists precariously at over 3,000 meters. Residents live in stone and white mud houses. They are surrounded by red limestone cliffs, filled with more than 10,000 ancient caves. During the day, the sun is scorching, but at night, temperatures drop below freezing. For centuries, Mustang was almost forgotten. There were no roads. The only way to transport goods was on pack horses, crossing high passes. Water depends entirely on melting glaciers, making farming a desperate struggle. The people stay here to preserve ancient Buddhist monasteries and the most authentic Tibetan culture. Today, the Forbidden Kingdom has opened up and become a dream destination for explorers. The desert-like beauty of the high mountains and the prayer flags flying in the air will leave you breathless and quiet. Yakutsk Villages, Russia. There is no concept of agriculture here. The menu consists only of raw fish slices and frozen horse meat. Yet people still choose to live in the Yakutsk region of Russia, known as the world's freezer. With permafrost ground, winter here lasts forever, with temperatures regularly hitting -50 degrees Celsius. Your breath freezes instantly, and glasses can stick to your skin, causing immediate frostbite. Every survival activity revolves around preventing things from freezing. Cars must be left running 24/7 so the engines don't turn into blocks of dead steel. All houses and water pipes must be placed on steel piles, driven dozens of meters deep, so they don't collapse. Despite the deadly cold, people stay here to mine diamonds and gold hidden deep under the ice. If you're a winter lover, come here to experience one of the harshest colds on the planet. Colca Canyon Villages, Peru. Before the powerful Inca Empire rose, the communities in Colca turned steep cliffs into magnificent, lively terraced fields. At altitudes from 3,000 meters to over 4,000 meters, the Calagua and Cabana people build villages of white stone and mud next to precarious terraces. The thin air makes every step feel heavy. Water depends on glaciers melting from the surrounding volcanoes. To move between villages, people often walk along narrow trails on the edge of deep abysses. The isolation from the modern world has accidentally helped these villages preserve ancient weaving techniques and languages for centuries. Today, Colca Canyon is a destination for tourists wanting to see the mythical bird, the Andean condor, soaring right overhead. Standing in the villages, looking down into the deep abyss, you'll be stunned by the mix of wild beauty and human endurance in the Grand Andes. Papua Highland tribes, Indonesia. In the modern 21st century, there are still tribes living a Stone Age lifestyle. The Dani, Lani, and Yali tribes living in the Balium Valley of Papua, Indonesia, will definitely shock you. Here, They build honai houses, which are circular with grass roofs 30 to 50 centimeters thick, to keep warm against night temperatures that often drop below 10 degrees Celsius in the mountains. There are no roads, so all supplies, for about 100,000 people, must be flown in by small planes through foggy canyons. On the steep slopes, people use wooden sticks to dig the ground to plant sweet potatoes and raise pigs. In the past, absolute geographic isolation maintained rituals and wars between tribes for thousands of years, creating a mysterious and gritty warrior society. Some customs, like cannibalism, cutting off fingers, or living with mummies, make anyone shiver just hearing about them. Coming here, you will see warriors in traditional bark clothing, wearing wild boar tusks, living in wild nature. Time seems to have stopped centuries ago in this forgotten land. Civita di Bagnoregio, Italy. Perched on top of a steep volcanic tuff rock at 443 meters, Civita di Bagnoregio in Italy is known as the Dying City. The rock supporting this village is constantly eroding at a rate of about 7 centimeters per year. Over centuries, parts of the village have tumbled into the abyss. The area has shrunk significantly, turning it into a lonely rock island in the sky. In winter, when clouds cover the valley, the village looks like a floating island. The only way to get there is a narrow footbridge over 300 meters long, where all supplies must be carried by small electric carts or by hand. Today, Civita di Bagnoregio is a symbol of fragile beauty against the destruction of time. Despite hosting hundreds of thousands of tourists every year, the village maintains a haunting silence of a kingdom slowly disappearing into the earth. Ittoqqortoormiit, Greenland. Ittoqqortoormiit on Greenland is one of the most remote settlements on Earth, sitting isolated in the middle of the vast Arctic wilderness. The village sits at an average of 70 meters above sea level, but is surrounded by towering mountains and the longest ice fjord system in the world. Here, winter lasts for 9 months. Total darkness takes over, and temperatures can drop to minus 40 degrees Celsius. The sea freezes, so ships cannot come in or out. People can only get here by helicopter or dog sled across endless snow fields. About 345 people here rely on traditional hunting to survive. Currently, Ittoqqortoormiit is a spot for explorers wanting to see the bright northern lights and the most primitive nature. The brightly colored wooden houses standing out against the white snow are a symbol of warmth at the end of the world. Yungas region settlements, Bolivia. Hidden under mysterious mist and lush tropical forests at altitudes of 1,000 meters to 2,500 meters, the Yungas settlements of Bolivia are a challenge to humanity. The population in small towns like Coroico or Chulumani ranges from 2,000 to 5,000 people who live by farming coffee and coca leaves on steep terraced fields. The fragmented, dangerous terrain and humid tropical climate here have caused horrific landslides. The main transportation artery connecting these villages to the outside world is the Yungas North Road, often known as Death Road. This road is only wide enough for one car, sitting right on the edge of a 600-meter drop with no guardrails. Rising above the fear of the dangers around them, the steady pace of life for the people here is something the world admires. Amid the mist and the lurking abyss, they still diligently sow and harvest on steep slopes with their bare hands and firm will. Guizhou Hanging Villages, China. In Guizhou, China, there are literal hanging villages on the Miaoling Mountains. At altitudes from 800 meters to over 1,500 meters, the karst limestone terrain is heavily divided, making building houses a war against gravity. People have to build diaojiaolu, hanging stilt houses, systems that lean against the mountainside with a deep abyss below. In the past, residents had to climb vertical stone stairs carved directly into the cliff or use crude cable systems. With a population ranging from a few hundred to a few thousand, self-sufficient life revolves around small terraced fields. Every brick and piece of wood to build a house was carried on people's backs over thousands of stone steps. Today, the world's tallest bridges and tunnel systems have connected Guizhou to the outside. But the hanging villages still keep their beauty of resilience. It is an epic of living in harmony, where humans do not give up, but choose to hang themselves in the forest to endure. Nunavut Inuit settlements, Canada. Nunavut, Canada is more than just a territory. It is the living boundary of the Inuit before everything disappears into the white void of the Arctic. The communities of Resolute or Grise Fjord are surrounded by rocky mountains and sea ice. Here, winter is a long white nightmare, with temperatures regularly dropping below -50 degrees Celsius. There are no roads connecting the 25 communities here to the rest of Canada. Everything from food and medicine to fuel must be transported by plane or icebreaker during the short summer. With a small population, residents face living costs 2 to 4 times higher than the mainland, and the threat of polar bears right at their doorstep. Rising above the harsh living conditions, the Inuit have written a song of survival using wisdom and courage. Each brightly colored house in the white snow is not just a shelter, but a symbol of iron will. Humans can thrive, even where nature refuses life. Svaneti Mountain Villages, Georgia. Peeking through the mist of the Grand Caucasus Mountains at altitudes up to 2,200 meters, the Svaneti region is home to the most magnificent fortress villages in Europe. In the 9th to 12th centuries, every house was a literal fortress to protect residents from avalanches and tribal conflicts. The most famous village, Ushguli, currently has about 200 people living there, surrounded by peaks over 5,000 meters high. Winter lasts 6 months, and snow can be 4 to 5 meters thick. An avalanche tragedy in 1987 destroyed many houses and forced hundreds to move. But many families insisted on returning to their ancestors' land. Living in a dangerous land, the Svan people have developed an iron will and legendary hospitality. They turned ancient stone towers into symbols of freedom and defiance. Visiting Svaneti, you will see that when people have enough love for their land, they can turn even the coldest peaks into a lasting home for thousands of years. Chachapoyas Cliff Villages, Peru. In Peru, the dead aren't just buried underground. They are also placed precariously on vertical cliffs where only spirits can reach. Existing in the misty forest at altitudes of 2,000 to 3,000 meters in the Andes, the Chachapoya people built settlements on steep slopes and plateaus. The humid cloud forest climate, almost year-round, isolated them from other civilizations. One of their strangest marks is the cliff burial sites like the Karagia sarcophagi. Coffin statues, over 2 meters tall, are placed on rock ledges that are almost impossible to reach. This was the Chachapoya way of protecting the dead from animals and intruders. However, Chachapoyas is not just a place of death. The 20 meters high stone walls at the Quelap fortress are proof of human iron will. Between the clouds and the abyss, they chose to live by hanging themselves to prove their ability to conquer the harshest heights on the planet. Korowai Tribe, Indonesia. In the middle of the wet and foggy West Papua jungle, the Korowai Tribe, Indonesia, are like architects of the forest. Under tropical rains that pour down like waterfalls, where disease-carrying insects and wild animals always lurk on the ground, the Korowai have built stilt houses on treetops 15 to 35 meters high, with some houses reaching 50 meters. All materials, from wood to rattan to food, are brought up using wooden ladders with small notches. "3,000 people live scattered in small groups. They have no electricity, no cell service, and are almost entirely self-sufficient." Infectious diseases and a lack of modern health care mean their average life expectancy is often no more than 35 to 40 years. Rising above the harsh survival, these treetop houses are proof of amazing adaptive intelligence. They turn treetops into homes and isolation into a peaceful fortress to preserve their pure identity against the changing world. Rocamadour, France. Perched on the Alzou River Canyon at a height of 120 meters, Rocamadour, France, is an architectural wonder built on a cliff in the literal sense. This village grows vertically into the sky, with houses stacked on top of each other. In history, to reach the highest cathedrals, pilgrims had to climb 216 stone steps on their knees as a symbol of penance. Today, about 600 people live in these ancient stone structures. Because of the vertical slope, repairs or transportation are a huge challenge. The biggest threat to Rocamadour is the weathering of the limestone cliff. Rock blocks fall from above, damaging thousand-year-old structures. The people here have used modern steel anchor systems to stitch the cliffs back together, keeping the village from sliding into the abyss. They turned a desolate cliff into a brilliant spiritual and architectural center for over 1,000 years. Alaskan remote villages, USA. Stretching along the stormy Bering Coast, the remote villages of Alaska are facing some of the harshest conditions in America. Located deep in the Arctic Circle, residents deal with polar night, lasting over 60 days without sun, and temperatures regularly hitting minus 40 degrees Celsius. The melting permafrost is causing houses to tilt and sink. Rising sea levels and big storms are eating away at the coast at a rate of dozens of meters per year. Getting supplies depends mainly on expensive flights, with prices 3 to 4 times higher than the mainland. Despite the prospect of having to move the whole village due to erosion, the native people stay on. They persistently keep fires burning in their houses amid snowstorms. It is a powerful statement. wherever there is love for one's roots, people will still find the strength to face nature. Andes Highland Villages, Bolivia. Going beyond normal biological limits, the residents of Highland Bolivia settle on the Altiplano Plateau at a brutal altitude of over 4,000 meters. The oxygen level here is 40% lower than at sea level. Residents have to live with bone-chilling cold and harsh UV radiation from the sun. They are mainly indigenous Quechua and Aymara people who have evolved with larger lung capacities to adapt. Rainfall is scarce, and night temperatures often drop below freezing. Farming becomes a gamble with nature. People survive by raising llamas and growing quinoa on rocky land. Rising above the difficulties, the people of the Bolivian highlands still maintain a lifestyle closely tied to Pachamama, Mother Earth. Amid the vast space of the rocky plateau, they have built a brilliant cultural identity in a place where even breathing is a challenge. Tanna Island Villages, Vanuatu. Sitting right at the foot of the active Mount Yasur volcano, the villages on Tanna Island are one of the places where humans live closest to hellfire on Earth. This volcano has erupted continuously almost every 3 to 10 minutes for the past 800 years. Every day, residents face dozens of seismic explosions from the crater. The ground under their flimsy, thatched houses is always shaking. People live scattered in the deep forest, building houses from bamboo and wild pineapple leaves, materials that are easy to repair or rebuild after every eruption or tropical storm. In geographic isolation and without modern health infrastructure, every act of survival relies entirely on local experience and community solidarity. Living under the shadow of a fierce volcano, the people of Tanna have viewed Yasur as a sacred guardian. Instead of moving, they choose to stay, farming on slopes covered in ash and maintaining ancient customs for centuries. Tiger Leaping Gorge Villages, China. Like the legend of the tiger jumping over the abyss to find a way to live, the people at Tiger Leaping Gorge, China, have turned nature's violence into a foundation for pride. With a height difference of up to 3,900 meters, the villages at Tiger Leaping Gorge, Yunnan, are tucked between vertical cliffs. Clouds often flow right into the windows of the Naxi people's houses. During flood season, the Jinsha River below roars violently. Houses hundreds of meters above can clearly feel the vibrations. Before there were modern trails, the residents here were completely isolated. Transporting supplies was a life or death puzzle, having to cross narrow paths just the size of a foot on the cliffside. Despite the violent nature, the people have turned dry slopes into terraced fields and lush gardens. Their will is like the legend of the jumping tiger, strong and full of pride, proving that life still blooms brilliantly right on the edge of the abyss. Namche Bazaar, Nepal. At Namche Bazaar, Nepal, every breath is an expensive tax you pay to nature for the right to step onto the roof of the world. At an altitude of 3,440 meters, the oxygen level here is only 60 to 70% of that at sea level. This is a stop for the body to adapt to low atmospheric pressure before heading deeper into the Everest region. Here, just one step too fast, and you could face the tragedy of pulmonary or cerebral edema due to lack of oxygen. The weather in Namche changes unpredictably. Sunny mornings can turn into blinding snowstorms in minutes. Every daily activity involves fighting the sub-zero cold and a severe lack of energy. Rising above adversity, the Sherpa people have turned this dry, rocky cliff into the busiest commercial center in the Khumbu region. Namche Bazaar is not just a stop, but a place where humans turn heavy breaths into the strength to conquer the planet's greatest heights. Phugtal Monastery Area, India. Like a giant beehive clinging to cave cliffs at an altitude of 3,850 meters, the Phugtal Monastery is the most remote destination in the isolated Zanskar region of India. There are no roads for vehicles leading to Phugtal. You can only walk for days over vertical cliffs and flimsy suspension bridges over the abyss. All supplies must be stored from summer and transported by hand or mule over dozens of kilometers of mountain paths. In winter, temperatures can drop below -30 degrees Celsius. Heavy snow completely isolates about 70 monks in absolute silence. Despite living without electricity, clean water, and healthcare, those who stay at Phugtal maintain a powerful spiritual life. They view isolation as the ideal environment for practice. Ancient stone walls and sacred caves have protected them for centuries against the harshness of the Himalayas. These 30 lands are scary in different ways, but they are all solid proof that no matter how harsh nature is, humans always find a way to survive. Their presence in these dead zones is not just a choice of where to live, but a proud statement to creation about the powerful life force of humanity. How about you? If you had the choice, would you be brave enough to live in one of these 30 places for even one day? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for coming along, and I'll see you on the next journey.